This wedding was an assignment for my Religion 2 class in Catholic school.
This one's wife, the palace fucked the Sussexes. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. You will be aware that last week there was a secret meeting. This secret meeting took place between representatives of Buckingham Palace and the Sussexes. So secret was this meeting that its occurrence ended up being reported on by the Daily Mail and then amplified thereafter by other news outlets. Indeed, so secret was this meeting that the three participants decided to sit on a balcony where they just happened to be photographed, and two of the participants were seen to be gazing in the direction of the camera lens as they were photographed. Naturally, this led to speculation as to how did the Daily Mail know about this? How were they able to report on it? And why was a photographer in place in what is a rather discreet area of London? You don't happen to see many individuals that you would know about wandering around, and so it wouldn't be a place that the paparazzi would just happen to be in place to collect such a photograph. They'd certainly have to be tipped off in order to get themselves into place. Naturally, the finger pointed at the Sussexes. This was as a consequence of this one's wife's well-known form for leaking information and the fact that as a narcissist, it would be deemed something that she would do as operating in the moment. She would want the publicity. She would want the fuel by way of a response. Thereafter, as I reported, the Sussexes were described as being frustrated by the fact that they were being blamed for the leak, and they issued a denial. Nevertheless, it would appear that there is once again evidence of the long game being played by Buckingham Palace, that whilst the Sussexes are playing a game of Twister, four-dimensional chess is being engaged in by Buckingham Palace. The relevant parties are at completely different levels. How so? Well, the suggestion is that in actual fact, it's the palace that has fucked the Sussexes over. How so? Well, I decided to get the input of my PR expert with regard to this supposedly secret meeting, and I asked her to provide me with her observations about who leaked it, for it clearly had been leaked. Her clear view was that the leak didn't actually come from the Sussexes and that it came from the palace, because this is part of the palace's plan to expose the behaviours of the Sussexes and maintain the upper hand. The reason being is that in essence, Buckingham Palace set a trap, and the Sussexes' hapless PR people walked right into it. How was this the case? Well, my PR expert explained that the major giveaway is the fact that Tobin Andrea was involved. He is a former deputy editor of the Daily Mail. The King hired him less than 3 years ago, following the death of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II. Tobin worked as a journalist for 25 years, and my contact is a former journalist who recognises that you can certainly take the man out of the newspaper, but you can't take the newspaper out of the man. And it's clear that he still has 100% solid and trusted contact in the Daily Mail newsroom to pitch the information of the secret meeting in advance. Tobin Andrea has already been credited with changing the royal communications strategy towards a greater degree of openness. Here is an example of how this has been done. For instance, never complain, never explain was once the favoured mantra of royal public relations chiefs, but King Charles III apparently is not a fan of this. This goes back to February last year when he issued the revelation that he had cancer. This was delivered in a statement at the time, which was issued to coincide with prime-time broadcast news bulletins and marked a significant departure from the low-key and carefully coded approach to major royal announcements in the past. While there is a decades-long tradition of US presidents publicly disclosing the state of their health to the nation, with the White House routinely publishing a very detailed summary of regular physical examinations, Britain's unelected head of state had traditionally been far more circumspect. In 2021, when the late Queen Elizabeth II was admitted to hospital, Buckingham Palace simply said she had been admitted for preliminary investigations and remained in good spirits. Nevertheless, an entirely different approach has now been adopted, with detail being given as to what was wrong with the king and the fact that he was receiving treatment. At the time, Valentine Lowe, the former royal correspondent for The Times, noted the completely different approach between that of those advising Queen Elizabeth II and those now advising King Charles III. Thus, there was a completely different approach, and there's been one of greater openness. Thus, there is this shift in the royal communications strategy, and it's a clear view of my PR expert that he has planned a little bit of revenge on behalf of King Charles III. She believes that Harry and this one's wife's PR people were the ones that requested the meeting take place. This is because the Sussexes are crashing and burning in plain sight. They have no appreciable projects in the pipeline, no major income streams, they have got high overheads, and the fact is, it's clear that they're not going to be able to pay their bills with shite pink wine and flower sprinkles alone. They need financial support, and the only way to obtain that, given the fact that all of their ventures have more or less failed so far, is to crawl back to the royal family to milk the bank of King Charles before he passes away and pushes up daisies, and William closes the palace door on the gruesome twosome forever. Now, it could have been the case that Buckingham Palace simply refused to meet up with the Sussexes, but instead, advised by Tobin and Andrea, they decided to play them to get their own back on them. Tobin set up the meeting and then sent out the relevant tip to the Daily Mail, with whom he maintains excellent contacts, and then ensured that he was photographed all surprised when the cameras busted the trio on the balcony. As many people have pointed out, why not meet in a nicely air-conditioned room inside? Why were they on the balcony? Because they wanted to be seen, because that's what Tobin and Andrea wanted to happen. The plan was to nip the Sussexes' attempts at negotiations in the bud. The palace has no interest in them. But by shining a light on this supposed secret plan to reconcile, the King's PR has humiliated the Sussexes and made them look stupid, needy, and desperate. It also has caused many people to think that the leak came from the Sussexes, because this is something that they are known for, and therefore most members of the public, not privy to the information that my PR expert has, automatically and reasonably assumed, well, it's been leaked by the Sussexes, hasn't it? Which then also means that Buckingham Palace avoids people thinking that they are the ones that have done the leaking. It also makes the king look good by way of accepting the well-used olive branch that, yes, we'll have a meeting with you. But the fact is, it's now irrelevant whether or not the negotiations will even go ahead, as the Sussexes' Plan A has collapsed. They've been outed for wanting the meeting. They've been outed for being desperate and needy. And the king's advisors have pointed this out to him, and therefore ensuring that the Sussexes are slapped back down, whilst making the king look good for at least entertaining the notion of a meeting. They've exposed the Sussexes, maintained the king's reputation, and headed off another attempt of the Sussexes to try and worm their way back in to the royal family. Accordingly, the palace has fucked them over, and had done so by doing the leaking themselves to expose the behaviours of the Sussexes, and it clearly appears to have worked. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.